Hi, and welcome to Two CPAs and the Mic, the podcast where we talk tax, finance, and all things related to business. Whether you're a business owner, working professional, or someone who wants to start a career in accounting, this is the podcast for you. Hosted by CCK Strategies partners Jeff Frable and Sarah Mays, we dive into relevant business and tax matters with working professionals to make these topics less intimidating, relatable, and dare we say fun? Let's get down to business.
Welcome to this week's episode of Two CPAs and the Mic. What's up, Maze?
What's up, Frable? Hey, so we're rolling into summer. We thought it'd be a great time to revisit some of those standout conversations and highlights from this past year.
Yeah, and honestly, these are episodes that are still incredibly relevant. Whether you missed them the first time or just need a refresher, there's a lot of good stuff here.
So we pulled together some amazing episodes, memorable moments, and insights that still feel just as fresh now.
Exactly. So if you're hearing this exchange, we're bringing back a few of those standout episodes, kind of a best of series to get you through the summer.
That's right. So if you're on the road, in the office, or trying to stay productive between vacations, hopefully this gives you something valuable and maybe even a little entertaining.
All right, let's jump into it. Here's one of our standout summer picks.
Welcome to another amazing episode of Two CPAs and the Mic. We are so glad you joined us today. We are here covering relevant business and tax topics, but we're doing it by applying straight talk, practical information, and without all the jargon and stuffiness that's associated with our profession. We try to have a good time. We are speaking to new and seasoned entrepreneurs. We are connecting with new and seasoned individuals in the accounting industry. And if you are just lacing on your shoes to go for a walk or a run today, you are in for a treat. In the studio today, I am Jeff Frable, a partner with CCK Strategies. And KP is with me this morning. Hey, KP, what's up?
Hey, how are you? I'm glad to be here. Glad that I'm filling in for one of my favorite people on the mic.
Well, why don't you just today's a historic day for this podcast. 1.25 seasons in, and we're doing it a little bit different today. Christy, why is that?
Because our very own Sarah Mays, who is one of two CPAs on the mic, is welcoming her brand new, what she calls her G-Baby.
Her G-Baby.
Her G-Baby arrived late last night, and so she's just living it up, and baby and mama are doing very well.
Yes, she took her headphones on the off chance she might be able to still join us, but with it being last night, I don't think this morning's the right time for that. So we will miss Sarah, but I think the pod is in good hands with us. I think we can take care of it. But one of the reasons why we can take care of it today is because we have got an amazing guest with us. As many of our listeners know, and if you're one of the millions just joining us, right, Christy?
Thank you, Jeff.
We are based out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. And if you are, I would say, between the ages of 8 and 18, and you drive around Tulsa, you will know what Josh's snow shacks are. So if you drive around Tulsa, you'll see these blue shacks, and they're like in parking lots, and you're like, what is that thing? And it says Josh's Snow Shack on it. It looks kind of deserted right now, but that's because it's not summer. You go by those shacks in the summer, you've got lines of kids waiting for snow cones. And we have got the founder, I guess maybe I should call you co-founder, Josh, of Josh's Snow Shacks, because I know your wife was involved. But we have Josh Juarez with us this morning. Good morning, Josh. What's going on?
Morning, man. Not a lot. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, Josh, I think I say this every time I get in your presence. You're kind of the oldest, youngest person I know. You're always got this energy. You look like you're 25 years old still. I don't know what you're eating at home or how you take your vitamins, but you're always a fun person to talk to. And no joke, you are known throughout Tulsa as Josh, because you are the owner of Josh's Snow Shack. And so we want to talk about your journey today. We want to get into some of the things about the culture that you created in this business. And it's a little bit different because it's more seasonal and just a different concept. And so we're looking forward to hearing more about that. But before we get started, Josh, just a general intro. Who are you and where'd you come from? And tell us a little bit about your family and things like that, high level.
Yeah, man. I'll give you guys kind of the big picture. Yeah, so I moved to actually Tulsa when I was like 5. We're from Houston originally. and grew up here, went to the same school from kindergarten through high school. It was a pretty small school. I graduated with like 20 people. And then throughout high school, I had a bunch of little odd jobs. One of them was working at a snow cone stand. So that's where I kind of learned about that business. I played soccer, played in college. And then me and my wife actually got married really young. She was 19, I was 20, kind of high school sweetheart story. We just celebrated 20 years, which is
Nice.
like, yeah, great.
Yay.
We have 3 kids, 10, 14, and 15, and 2 boys and a girl. And yeah, man, I love Tulsa. I've been here forever. I tell everyone who will listen, like, how amazing it is as a city. And one of my favorite things is to meet people who are new to the city and then be so surprised by the culture of it as a whole, like, and what it is. And then just the people that they are always like, man, I love the people that are in Tulsa. Is what makes it great. And so I love being part of that community and part of kind of the fabric of what summer is in Tulsa is Josh's Snow Shack for me. So that's one thing that I'm really proud of. And then, yeah, man, I'm a happy, pretty much person who loves to be alive, and I enjoy meeting people. So this is a great medium to kind of be a part of.
Yeah. We want to get more into your love for Tulsa. And one of the reasons why I don't think we want to get into all the details of how does a snow cone shop operate and all that is because in your mind, it's really not about the actual product. You are a big proponent of creating memories. And the snow cone is just the way to do that. And so we want to kind of get into that because that's been a thread through your entrepreneurial journey. And it's really your why in creating these memories. But we'll get into that. But let's start off with as a kid. So you started this entrepreneurial journey as a kid, but you are a preacher's kid by trade, right?
Yes,
so
sir.
Tell us a little bit about how all that. Yeah, I think that's what brought you to Tulsa. Is that right?
Yeah, correct. So my dad was actually a writer. So he wrote worship songs. He was a worship pastor. And so when we were in Houston, we were at a really small church, and he wrote a song that went all over the world. And that's how Grace Church at the time was a really big church here in Tulsa. That's how they discovered him. And they were like, hey, we're looking for a new worship pastor. They brought him out. And that's kind of how we got here. So I grew up in the church, grew up in like the school I went to was Grace Christian School. So it was a school within the church. And so, yeah, I definitely was raised in the church and still active in it. But one of the questions you asked is like my early entrepreneur endeavors. And I feel like when I meet people who are entrepreneurs, I think a lot of them have the same story or have a similar one where they're like, man, I was 10 and I was trying to sell this thing or always trying to make money. For me, when we were in Houston, like we weren't super well off. And so like I was always like, for whatever reason, like money, like I wanted to make money. I liked money. And so from the time I was like 5, I was like trying to find it. I was always counting it. Anytime I got it, I saved it. And so my parents were like, you kind of had like this fixation on it. So much so that I remember I was like probably 6 and I found one of my dad's old briefcases and I went around the house and I just collected items, everything from like pencils to, I remember the biggest ticket item was a brand new unopened bottle of mouthwash that I found. And I was like, this is worth at least $2. And so I put all these things in this briefcase and I went I just literally was like, I'm out. I went door to door. I was like, hey, you want to buy anything in this? And my parents got a call from a neighbor like 5 doors down. They're like, hey, your son is going around selling random items. And so she came and got me. She's like, what are you doing? And I was like, this is all stuff we're not going to miss. I'm going to make money on it. So that was my first entrepreneurial endeavor. So yeah, that was my first one. I was like 6. And then, yeah, I always had jobs. I was like 14. My first job was at Chick-fil-A. And I don't know if Arthur Greeno's been on the pod, but he's a great guy. And he was one of my first bosses there at Chick-fil-A in the mall. And I actually hated that job. So I was like, I definitely don't want to be a cashier working in a fast food restaurant. And so then I got another job mowing lawns. And then I worked at a snow cone stand. And then once I kind of learned that business, I was like, when the guy told me he was going to close this down, I was like, okay, I think I can do this. And that was the beginning.
That was the beginning. Your story reminded me a little bit about my son, because when my son was, I would say, late middle school, he would go around at the football games and find stuff underneath the bleachers, like the lightning bolts that you bang together and stuff that were given out for free to people who walked in. And he would take them, blow them up, and sell them to people inside the football
Good.
stadium.
That's so cool.
So maybe I'm guessing my son has got an entrepreneurial streak in him, just
For
similar
sure.
to what you had. So you went through this process, and you worked at this snow cone place, and then he was going to shut it down. So talk a little bit about when did that happen? And because I think you basically, didn't you start this during college? And so at what point in time did you kind of realize this could pay the bills for quite a while for my family and things of that nature?
Yeah, I mean, the goal was I remember I was probably 19 and I told my dad, like, hey, I think I want to get married. Like, I think I want to ask Angie to marry me. And we just watched our video from our wedding and we're like, we were just babies. That's crazy. That
Yeah, it is.
And if my kid at 19, I'd been like, what are you talking about? That's not happening. But he was like, well, you got to provide for your family. Like, if you're going to get married, you got to make money. And so the goal was to basically be poor college students together and like just get through college. So, when you're not making a ton of money, you qualify for grants and different things for college. So my wife was in nursing school. And then I just got my business degree, my degree in business administration and economics. And that was the whole goal, is like just pay for us to get through and then we'll get real jobs. So it was about 4 years in, like, where I remember right after I graduated college, I went straight to grad school. And I remember when I was taking like a final, like it was an Excel spreadsheet, basically was the final. You had to build this big sheet for one of the classes. And I remember looking at the snow cone stand we had opened, and I'm in a Panera at like 91st and Memorial, back when there's Panera Bread there.
Mm-hmm.
And I see this line. It's an hour wait. And I'm watching this line and I'm trying to create this spreadsheet. And I'm like, I'm losing money to do this thing, like in my mind. And I was like, man, like, I think this thing could actually could be pretty good, because the goal was, once I went to grad school, then I'd be like, oh, I own a business. I can go get a job somewhere. And about that year we had, I think, 4 locations at that point. And it was like, no, this is going to be the thing that I can do and make a decent amount of money in a short period of time. And it was something that I was like, okay, this works for us. So it took about 4 years to realize like this could actually be something that is sustainable.
And so how many locations do you have now?
So it varies between 13 and 9, depending on the year. And it's because like last year, I think we had 9. This year, I think we'll have 13. So it can change a little bit. And it's mainly because sometimes you get a parking lot that, like, that's what we live and die by in this business, where it's like people on a whim can say, hey, you can't be here next year, or you can't be here in a month. Right. And then you got to pivot and you're like, okay, we got to find this other location. So that happens sometimes. And so it just depends on that. But we want to be average at 10 is a good size. The bigger thing that like we realize is that I tell people, like, every location sells an event and every event sells a location. And so we're very, very big on the event side. And I think that is the thing that they kind of feed each other. So what's interesting is it feels like no matter how many locations we have, like Tulsa is going to buy a certain amount of snow cones within a summer, whether I have 9 locations or 13 locations. I mean, a little bit, but it's very, over the last 20 years, you look at it and you're like, oh, it just varies 10% either way.
Well, you mentioned the events. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because you don't just have what I would call the brick and mortar locations, but you also do events where you go out into the community. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole business principle there. Like, I was adamant that I didn't want to do events back when we started. I had one of my managers who was like, I really think we should do more. We got asked to do a few weddings. And I was like, look, you can run with it. Like, just go, like, do whatever you want with it. And she helped create the process and the system for it. And then my wife, early days, booked them all and organized it. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, I'm like, oh, holy cow, like, this is actually a big part of the business. And so we do about 100 to 150 events a month from April through October. We just average that. We just have so many birthday parties, weddings, festivals. And so that is probably 30% of our business is those events. So it's a good chunk of it, and it's a great part of it. So
Yeah. Well, let's go from the kind of the logistics into the whys behind Josh's snow shacks. I'm trying to be careful with the way I say that because
you're doing great.
it doesn't roll off the tongue real easy. But you've talked in other interviews about how this is a place to create memories. So let's go to a little bit deeper into the why behind the snow shacks. Not only what it creates for people that visit, but also the passion you have for your people. Talk a little bit about the number of employees you have and how special they are and how you create that culture internally, because it is special and it's a little bit different because it's seasonality work, right?
Yeah.
So there's a whole nuance to that too. So how does that work for you, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably like the thing I'm most proud of for like my life. Like in terms of like, we're all going to die one day. People are going to remember like 2 or 3 things about us, and then that's it. Like that's all you get. And I think for me, in that mindset, is very much like very proud that we have so many people we get to employ that are in this very like specific age range where their life could go a number of different directions, and they have so many inputs in their lives. And so the opportunity we have to be like a positive influence, a positive role model, a positive work experience, though not perfect, we mess up, we definitely mess up, but like a mostly positive experience for people who are 16, 17, 18. That is what I'm really, really proud of. And seeing the memories that are created within my organization amongst my employees, the relationships. I mean, there are probably 4 or 5 marriages that have come out of people who've met working at Josh's Snow Shack. All those types of things, like that's what I really hang my hat on. And having employees who are now 35, like I'll get coffee and they'll say, man, those are some of the best memories of like my summers, like working at Josh's Snow Shack. And to be clear, a lot of those kids work 20 to 30 hours a week during the summer, which most kids are not working a ton who have fun. And so that culture, I'm just kind of telling you, like, that's what I'm proud of. The culture is very much for me. I remember hearing this quote that like, if you don't actively create culture, it will create itself. And it's probably not the culture you want. And I have kind of like hung on to that. And so for Josh's Snow Shack, when we started, it was me, and then my wife would help out occasionally, or my girlfriend at the time would help out occasionally. And then I had a girl who was like a little sister. Her brother and I are like best friends. She was like 14 and she'd help out a little bit. And then next thing you know, we had 5 or 6 employees, and then we had about 10. And about 10, all of a sudden they would be like, hey, Josh, there's a movie premiere of Batman, at Cinemark, right? Like, we should go. And I'm like, let's do it. I'll buy tickets for everybody. So we would do that. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, that was fun. And I remember I was like, what if you guys want to play dodgeball at midnight after we close? And they're like, yeah, let's do it. So we started playing dodgeball, and then we started longboarding. And so for the first 5 to 8 summers, it was just like there were between 5 and 20 of us by the time, or 30 of us by the time we got to 8. And it was like just this group of people, like we would go see movies, we'd go longboard, we'd go do all this fun stuff. And then I became very, very intentional about year 6 to 8. Like, no, these are called our family nights, and we're going to do these. And these are the ones on the docket before we even open. So every year, if you work at Josh's Snow Shack, you're going to get invited to dodgeball night, kickball night, water fight night, potluck night, yard game, like potluck and yard game night. So, and these all happen at 11 p.m. And so, because we close at 10:30.
Right.
And so what happens is like those, you cannot go to one of those and not remember that as part of a core memory in summer, especially whenever like we do dress up. So like the winning team gets to, and like it's fast and furious because summer is really only 100 days. And so it's like every 3 weeks, you're doing some cool epic event as an employee of an organization. And I think that is the core of the culture we've created there, is just creating this really fun work experience and fun experience for the kids. And so back to like my core why of Josh's Snow Shack, and you said it because you probably saw an interview or read it somewhere. I told you, like, when we talk about our why, I tell every kid who works for us, like, we are here to create summer memories for Tulsa. Like, we're not here to make the best snow cone in the whole world. We're not here to make the best dessert in the whole world. Like, we hope that comes out of that. if we're creating the best experience, summer experience. But our goal is that when people think summer, they cannot think anything like in Tulsa, summer in Tulsa, they can't exclude Josh's Snow Shack, so that we become part of the core fabric of summer in Tulsa. And we've noticed, and I've realized that like there are people who hate snow cones or who don't like snow cones, believe it or not, but I've never met anyone who hates summer or who doesn't like summer. Never. So I'm like, if we're just part of creating summer, then we're going to win. So now it kind of has gone from like, we want to create great summer experiences. Like we just want to create summer for Tulsa. And so it's idealistic and it's very like hopeful, and we definitely don't always nail it, but that's what we're aiming for. And that's why I think we keep kids who start at age 15 and they will come work for us till they're 22. Like we have kids who will work all through high school, all through college. Then they'll take a gap year and they'll be like, hey, can I help you out more this summer? And then they'll get married. And then 5 years later, hey, can I pick up some shifts just because I want to be in the shack? And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Like, and so that's I'm very, very proud of that culture. And it just took a lot of years to build.
Yeah. So when you're talking about these returning employees or and teammates, talk a little bit about the retention rate that you have and how you go through your annual interviews. I heard you speak about that in an interview, and I was just kind of amazed at that process because it's not typical, it's not traditional, but it seems to be very effective. So talk about what you're looking for and how you do those interviews.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how or why I came up with it, or maybe I stole it, but like it was one of those things where it was probably because we don't have a store, we don't have a place to meet, so we meet at Panera or we meet at Courts and Commons now, or we meet wherever, and it's like it's weird if I'm like, hey, can your 15-year-old kid meet me at a random Starbucks and like have like that's just like if I'm a parent, I'm like, wait, who you're meeting with a grown adult? Like that's weird. And so maybe that was a little bit of it, but more than anything, I found that when you're a teenage kid, 15, 16, 17, and you've never had an interview, that's a very like, I don't know, like overwhelming experience. You're like, I've got 2 managers potentially just ask me questions and I don't want to mess up. And so what we began to do is we would say, hey, we're going to do these in waves, and you're going to be at the table with 4 other candidates, 4 other potential hires, and 4 managers. So it's going to be a big conversation. So it's more like a round table meeting. And we found a lot of success in it because ultimately, when we hire a teenager, they're going to be in a very small confined area with another teenager, and they're going to have to talk a lot, communicate a lot. They're going to have to be able to get their voice loud and out there. And so the way we do an interview is like 15 minutes, and they all 4 sit down. We've already read their like availability. And then we ask them questions like, if you could meet one famous person, living or dead, who would you have lunch with? Things like that, like more, I guess, human questions about like the way they see the world. And then we give them a couple of weird, like a couple problems I found, like, are you smart enough to work at Google? There's a book where it's like these really complex questions they ask Google people. And we give them a couple of those to solve as a team. And I don't really care if they solve it. I care more about like, do they ask for help, or are they the person being like, this is what we're going to do? And it's like, oh, okay. So in 15 minutes, like over 20 years of doing this, like I can usually read a kid pretty quick. And like I said, I miss it sometimes, but we can hopefully start with a good core, and then we can grow them and develop them into the employee we want them to be.
How many brand new employees do you bring on every summer average?
Yeah, so probably 15 to 25. I know it's a pretty big range there, but it's really crazy because during June, our payroll will be 70 kids, 70 employees. And then in September, it'll be 20. And April, it'll be 30 or 40. So it's like, it's just this crazy wave that happens. And so we hire a lot to get through that busy time, but we do get about 60 to 70% that return. And the ones that don't usually are the ones that either were never the right fit, or they are graduating college, or they're moving on. Like that's usually what we get. Very rarely is it like, I can go make more money somewhere else, because like these kids make a lot of money, like when they work, because they make so many in tips. They make so much in tips.
The tips is where it's at, right?
100% for these guys. I mean, like we've kind of come to a place back on, like you said, it's kind of unorthodox. So we do a few things. Like I'm almost at a place where not almost, we tell kids like, hey, if you're not averaging $13 an hour, like you're going to probably stop getting scheduled. And the reason why is because like that signals to me that like they just aren't doing the thing. Cause like I've got kids that are averaging $20 an hour because they're going, they're just that gregarious, happy, good energy, talking to customers, which is what we want. So it's almost like it's yours to lose. Like you can, So that's kind of where we kind of more land.
Cool. All right, Josh, you've had a lot going on with Josh's Snow Shack, and I want to transition and talk about your latest venture. But before I do that, correct me if I'm wrong, but you kind of found yourself in a position when you were transitioning to this new venture where you had to basically replace yourself in the Snow Shack operations. How did that go? Was it successful? Are you out? Are you still have stuff to do, or what's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, my brother-in-law, his name's Jace, he kind of took over Josh's Snow Shack, and he is doing a great job. Like the same culture that I wanted to create, he's creating. All the kids love him, and he's a great guy. So as far as Josh's Snow Shack, I mean, it's pretty much been kind of handed off. Big picture things, talking like nailing down some contracts and nailing down some locations. I'm helping out with a little bit, but for the most part, he's kind of running with it. So transitioning out of that has been mostly successful, and it's more Courts and Commons is a monster of a business, and that's been something that has been very enlightening for me and big growth for me as a human being that I've had to walk through. But yeah, it's just Josh's Snow Shack is locked down pretty good.
What was the hardest thing for you to delegate, Josh?
That's a great question. I think most entrepreneurs by nature are control freaks. Like they want to have their hand in everything. And I think that I'm getting a lot better. I think I heard a guy say something like 90% good or 80% good done by someone else is 100% awesome or something like that. Like it's never going to be to the 100% that you want it to be because it's your baby. But if it's 80% done well by someone else, like, dude, that's a huge win. And I would say that like Josh's Snow Shack is honestly the anomaly. I mean, he's 100% crushing it on that. So really the brand image is a little difficult because I want them to be doing all these things. I'm like, hey, are you doing this? Hey, are you doing this? Like, yeah, we're going to get there. And so just having to kind of trust is probably the just overall trust that it's going to be okay.
Makes perfect sense. Okay. Yeah. So let's get on to the new venture because I could see the smile on your face when we were kind of going that way. You've opened up a whole different operation. It's called Courts and Commons. It's in Bixby, Oklahoma, and it is pickleball. It's a pickleball court and other stuff. Yeah. So pickleball has become all the rage the last several years. So Josh, walk us through, how did this idea germinate? Was it an opportunity or an obsession? Are you like the world's greatest pickleball player and you look for this opportunity, or is it just about making more memories?
So it's funny, like what you said is like, it's a pickleball place and other stuff. So for us, I mean, we really want people to see it more as a food hall that happens to have pickleball. And so we're kind of like, that's what we're realizing is that like, because pickleball is so big, it's like people are like, oh, it's a pickleball place. And it's like, so we're really trying to push it's a third space, it's a community space more than anything. So Courts and Commons is 3 restaurants, a full bar, and then a coffee shop. So that is the food hall side of it. Then we have 8 indoor pickleball courts and the other stuff, which is we have like yard games on the green turf space outside. We have darts upstairs. We have a lot of like just things to hang out with. Where it came from was more an evolution of kind of like I said, like people are going to remember a couple things about you and like your life and what you do with it is this. And when I look at Josh's Snow Shack wanting to create summer for people, it's like I started realizing like in those summer memories, I'm like, I think I just want to be in the business of creating moments for people. And I think throughout history, people find community over food. And it seems like pickleball is a very unique activity in which you find communities intersecting that would never intersect otherwise. And so those things kind of became Courts and Commons. Of course, there's yes, it's a growing activity. It's a growing sport, all those things. And then food, in theory, people always need it. So hopefully as a business, it's strong, but the core why behind it is definitely closer to the Joshes of like, we want to be part of the culture in Tulsa and Oklahoma, and that culture of community and making memories and having moments. Like that's kind of the whole thing that wraps up Courts and Commons.
Josh, you are doing more than just having this connection with food and people, but even the way you were talking about the snow shack, there's so much mentoring going on from the way that you were breathing into this original group of teenagers to the people who came back and began mentoring these students. And now, as you think about pickleball, it is the great connector of about 5 generations, if you think that way. And I don't even know if you did it with intention or it just is so naturally, but through your endeavors and through that curious spirit and briefcase and all, you're connecting people from all over and so many generations that I think is just creating awesome opportunity for mentorship for more.
Yeah. Thank you. So on that note, the gentleman was in the other day and he was like, he didn't realize that I was one of the owners. And he just said, so he thought maybe I just worked there. I was a manager. And he was like, so are you concerned that this is just a fad? Like, what if it's just a fad? And I was like, man, like it might be, it could be, I don't know. And I was like, but I know what is not a fad. Like, and he was like, well, what do you mean? And I was like, people wanting to connect with other people is never going to go out of business. And I think what we saw with COVID and post-COVID is like, and I think there's all these case studies of like why pickleball grew the way it did, and COVID is a part of that. But it speaks to this greater thing of like, we are so hungry for connection with other people and community with other people. And even though we like to be in our echo chambers and be around the people that look like us, I think actually there's something within us. It's like, I actually like am interested and want to be around people who maybe don't think the same way I think, and who maybe don't look the way I look, and who maybe don't have the same background I have. And that's what you see with pickleball. There's no, going back to like the pastor's kid thing, I've never been in any other place where you're going to have a 10-year-old, a entrepreneur, a Division I athlete, and a grandpa all in the same place at the same time having a conversation. And I think that like what happens when you create that little petri dish of people, that there's almost like alchemy that happens, or there's almost this back to your point of mentorship, in the sense that like I'm getting a chance to speak into or hear from a grandfather who might have seen some things I haven't seen.
Yeah.
And then that Division I athlete gets a chance to talk to my 10-year-old kid who's like, hey, if you work a little harder at this, you can be where I am in my sport. Like, and I think like those are the things that I think will never go out of business. And pickleball just happens to be the medium for that in a lot of ways. So when I kind of said that, he was like, and then his wife came up, was like, he's one of the owners. And he felt like, I was like, no, man, I'm not put out by it. I'm not offended by it. Like, I think it's a valid thing. When something grows really quick, like you need to kind of question it. And so for me, I think that's the bigger picture of what pickleball is and why it has found itself successful. It's crazy. Like I was there the other day and there were 80 people who were on the lawn, and it was a pickleball group. They all play together, and then they're all hanging out, eating, drinking together. And I was like, how do you guys know each other? How'd you guys meet? And they go, oh, through pickleball. And now this is their Sunday group. And I'm like, I mean, cool. I have seen that over and over and over again. It's pretty crazy.
So Josh, I hope I asked this question the right way. I hope it's understandable. Your why is so pure and so beautiful and amazing and spot on, quite honestly. But it intersects with this world of reality. So you came up with this concept. You started building a building, which was a lot bigger than a shack.
Yeah.
And I know it was a tough journey. There were changes to the construction budgets. Nothing ever comes in and this was not a $500,000 building that was being built. It was bigger than that. And so can you talk, was there ever a time when your why kind of butted up against the reality and you're like, man, this just isn't worth it? Or does that make that journey even harder when it's so subjective of a why versus just making money?
100%. I mean, you might know this because you've built something, and other entrepreneurs will know this, and anyone who's gone on an endeavor will know this, that like the number of times I've just looked in the mirror and been like, why did you do this? Like, what are you doing? Like, you had a really sweet gig. Like, snow cones is super easy. And I could have opened 100 more snow cone stands with a tenth of the effort it's taken me to put into Courts and Commons, like, undeniably. And it is at times very like, it's tough on your mental state. And this is me just being raw, like, where I'm like, this is what it is. So to answer your question, like, 100%. And I think the times in which you're like, gosh, I do feel like this makes sense. Like, philosophically, like, why would you not want to come here? We have restaurants. Like, why would you not just come eat lunch here and eat dinner here with your family? We have so much space. And like, what you want as the entrepreneur is to be a home run right away. And I expected that because Josh's Snow Shack really pretty much truly was a home run from day one. And so, yeah, to your point of like budget going over, building plans changing, all those things, those were extremely tough times for me as a person. And we're almost a year old now. We've almost only been open a year. And like, I see glimpses of what I believe it will be long term. And those get you through some of the kind of like the harder times. And I think that's how it is in business. But I would say 100%, like, I would be lying if I didn't say there's been a lot of times where I've just been like, why did I do this? What am I doing here? And it's a funny thing because I think every entrepreneur business will tell you, it's like, you always find yourself like, well, if I just had, this much more capital, or if we could just do this, or if we could just do this, like, and the truth is what I've been kind of learning and chewing on is that like, and one of my good friends told me, is like, the only way through it is through it. Like, the only way forward is through it, through the pain, through the hard, through all those things. And yeah, man. So to answer your question, yes, a lot. I felt those thoughts, but then you have these moments. We had Quick Trip out the other day, and they did, I think, just their IT department. And it was like 350 people or something like that. And they were loving, I mean, it was like, they all were like, this is the best event we've ever done. Like, for Quick Trip, like, we love it. And we executed so well, and they had such a great time that I'm like, okay, like, that's a big win for us. So you have these wins mixed into these like these hard times. But yeah.
I tell you what you're saying, Josh, will resonate with our listening audience because we have business owners, we have business leaders. Jeff, you're a business owner. What Josh is saying, I'm sure you can absolutely connect. You're doing what you love, but then it's hard. And you look at the economics. And I think it really resonates with our listening audience.
Yeah.
Well, and Josh, you transitioned this conversation really well to where we wanted to go in talking about kind of long-term vision. But I just want to take a quick step back because I think this is an interesting concept and it may speak to other entrepreneurial business owners out there. You went from a business that was very seasonal to another business where you're dealing with monthly memberships, things of that nature. How were those populations or those business models similar, and how may they be a little different?
Yeah, I mean, my wife would say that I work all the time, even with Josh's Snow Shack, and I would say I work like 10 hours a week. And maybe your wife would say the same thing, like, I don't work that much, but it's top of mind all the time. I think the difference in models is that, like, one, and maybe I'm wrong, but I do believe that every business has an element of seasonality to it, where you have like these, I mean, I'm sure for tax or for audits or for whatever, like, you have these like huge times and you have these kind of slower times. And so I think coming from Josh's Snow Shack and realizing that, like, when June and July, and we're doing probably 5 times what we're doing in September, like, I can breathe because I'm used to that. And so I think it helped me get through the lows of Courts and Commons. Like, we had some not so great months and then we had some really great months. So that's that. But the overarching, a business that operates 8-9 months a year versus a business that operates all year round, it's a different beast in the sense that, like, that I always feel like, especially when it's a startup, like, I always am like, there's something else I can do. And the list, I mean, if you looked at my list right now, it's like infinite, where I'm just like, I don't know how to get through this list. And maybe you feel that way. I think with Josh's Snow Shack being open for 20 years, you eventually like, oh, I got through my list, like, I just got to do these things and have people do these things. So it's a never ending list. I feel like is the difference between all year round and seasonality.
Nice. Okay. Long-term vision. as we start to kind of wrap this conversation up, and I think you were really doing a great job of explaining the process and the emotions that were flowing through you through Courts and Commons, the startup and initiating business. So we're not afraid to shy away from the faith question on this podcast. So, Josh, what do you see as the distinction or the difference between faith and reckless risk?
Gosh, man. That's a great question. I mean, I'm fortunate for Courts and Commons to have a partner who is very, very strong in like faith, in the sense of like, even when I feel like it's hopeless at times, he's like, no, God's got us. Like, it's all right. Like, those types of things. So it's really nice to have someone like that in your corner who's a partner. And I think we all experience doubt. Like, God, did I miss it? What did I do wrong? Those types of things. It's funny because I feel like there are things that we've seen across the history of business where you're like, that's a slam dunk. That's going to be $1 billion thing or $1 trillion industry or whatever it was. And then all of a sudden, oh, I guess that wasn't right. And all the experts and all the people said that's going to be a great thing. It's going to work. And then we've had things where it's like, that's a stupid idea. No one's ever going to do that. Like, why would anyone ever, Snapchat is a perfect example. Like, why would anyone ever just delete? Like, that's stupid. And so then it becomes $1 billion company. And so you have these types of moments where it's like, sometimes I feel like faith is just like, you wake up and you say, like, at least for me, and I'm like, God, I feel like you've put this in my heart. I'm going to try my best to walk through the doors that open up. And as those doors open, I'm going to walk through them. And as they close, I'm going to see if there's another door. For me, that's how I've kind of learned to live my life, is just through that piece of the doors opening. And to be honest, sometimes you do have to bust through a door too. But
yeah,
man, I think that's a really, really tough question. I don't know how to answer exactly right, because to some, it looks like crazy risk, and to others, it's like, oh, that's pretty calculated. And you're like, I don't know what to do here with this. You got experts on both sides saying something. So for me, I don't know if I have a distinction.
Well, you even kind of alluded to it earlier, that there have been times that you're looking at a decision that doesn't necessarily make complete sense on paper, but somehow you find peace in that decision. And I'm sure you've experienced that several times through this process, whether it was the Snow Shacks or Courts and Commons.
Yeah, I mean, with Josh's Snow Shack, I remember vividly, like, one of our busiest locations. I remember going to it, and it's tucked away in a parking lot. And multiple like, don't do this, don't buy this, don't do it. I'm like, no, it's going to be awesome. Like, I know it's going to work. And it became like our busiest location. And through COVID, it was a drive-through. So it was like our 3 times more successful than any other one. So there's been those moments where you have that gut. And I think whether the Lord's speaking to your heart or you follow the piece that's kind of laid out before you, it's hard to tell. But I do think that, like, I'm of the nature that when things go really well, I'm like, man, God, like, you paved the way. And when things go really bad, I'm like, all right, I must have missed something. Like, I'm not gonna be like, God, you told me, I had the wrong thing to eat that night when I was thinking that thing up. So, or whatever it was. But yeah.
So this question has been kind of in the back of my mind. We had Johnny Hampton on the pod a few weeks ago, and Johnny has done work with national amusement parks. And so I said, if you go to an amusement park with your family, are you just always people watching and working behind the scenes in your mind? Is that the same way with you, Josh, when you're driving around Tulsa? Do you go, oh, that would be a great location, or that would be...
Yeah. Oh, for everything, like whether it's Josh's Snow Shack, like I can't look at a parking lot, and I've gone, at least in Tulsa, like I'm looking at a parking lot and like, it's going to do that much revenue. Like I'm within $4 or $5 grand. Like I know how much it's going to do. With Courts and Commons, I can't go to a restaurant anymore. I can't go to a entertainment facility anymore. I can't go anywhere. Like if you go, even when we go on vacation and I go to like an amusement park, like even an amusement park, I'd be like, how much labor is going, like all those things, like where you're like, well, they must have to be doing this. So like, I don't know if that's all entrepreneurs, but it's like the more other businesses you do, the more you realize like, oh shoot, now I've signed up for like analyzing every single element to every single thing.
Well, I've got about 1 or 2 more questions. Christy, is there anything you wanted to jump in and close up with here?
I think it just all comes back to discernment when you're making these decisions. Josh, you talk about having all these advisors in your ear, and they're all really smart. I'm going to go back to the influence that you've had on so many lives. And as your kids are getting older, you're probably looking at some of the influences they have in their lives, their coaches, their teachers, and you've walked this journey and mentoring so many people. It's got to change how you look at parenting and everything you've learned from being a business owner and a leader.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, like my kids play on the teams I play on right now because I like the coach and I believe in the coach. And they don't play for a team because you couldn't pay me to play for some of the quote best coaches in Tulsa.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I think it just that connection. I continue to hear the discernment that you're using in the way that you're making business decisions, in the way that you're leading your family, and just you're striving for that excellent experience in Tulsa. Those are the big points.
Well, and the other part about it, Josh, that I think is coming through more through this conversation, again, is the why. But I love what you talked about with Courts and Commons and the way that these humans get together, regardless of age, and how they get to know each other. They develop a group. So it's almost like you're developing this other church or place of worship throughout Tulsa that it's just done in a different manner. And so I guess my last question for you, talking about business here, is what's on the horizon? You probably wouldn't speak directly or specifically about it, but are there some things percolating in the back of your mind for your next step, or is Courts and Commons good enough for now?
yeah, I mean, it's taking all my bandwidth right now. I think in a startup, you don't know what you don't know. And people make this analogy all the time of like, it's like building the plane while flying the plane. And that is very much kind of, we're still in that a little bit. We're trying to get our consistency down, our processes down. And I'm grateful. I mean, we've had a lot of customers who have had subpar experiences who come back and they give us grace, and that's great. And we've given a lot of really great experiences. So it's like, we just are right now, my only endeavor is to get Courts and Commons as consistent as I possibly can through that guest experience, so that when you walk in and you walk out, you're like, man, that was a great experience. And it's something I'm going to tell my friends about, talk about. So yeah, that's all I'm committed to right now, man, is getting it. I think if we can get it to where we want it to be, then there's a future there to grow, but we have some work to do.
Well, as this year's chair of the Bixby Metro Chamber's board of directors, I'm so thankful that you put Courts and Commons down in Bixby. It's a great addition to the community. And I love seeing your signs all over town that say, go there to eat. Don't just go there to play pickleball. There's a whole other community there to be experienced. So we love seeing that location grow and the success that's coming with it. So how can people connect with you, Josh? Is there a way, either your social channels or anything like that? What's the best way for someone to connect with you?
Yeah, I'm not as active as I should be, but I'm trying to be more. But like, you can follow us on Courts and Commons on Instagram, Facebook, all those things, TikTok, I believe. And then I have my own personal account on Instagram. You can find me through Courts and Commons pretty easily because I'm tagged and everything. But yeah, that's the best way if they want to keep up with what's going on there. And then Josh's Snow Shack, of course, on all the social channels as well. So best way to figure out what's going on, to keep up and stay up to date on all the fun stuff we're trying to make happen in Tulsa.
Yeah. So it is March. And when does Josh's busy season actually start? Is it more the end of May?
It's like right now. Like, yeah, the hardest month for my GM is March, because you have to do all the prep, all the legwork, all the hiring. And so that way, when you open, we usually open the first weekend in April. I think we're going to open the second weekend because it's a weird time with Easter. So we'll open April 10th, I think. Yeah. And then it's go, because they'll open 3 locations in one weekend for Josh's Snow Shack. And then it's just, so yeah.
Wow.
We know you're a busy guy, and we're very thankful for the time you spent with us today. We do have another tradition on the show. And Christy, are you going to do it with me now that Sarah's not here? Or
absolutely, you know,
okay.
I am.
It's time for our rapid fire.
Love it. One word answers. Let's go.
Yeah, here we go. All right. Josh, what's your favorite snow cone flavor?
Peach and pink lemonade with a little bit of sour.
All right.
Ooh,
not on the menu.
Not on the menu. I want the Josh's special.
Yeah, that's it.
Are you and your wife binging anything now on TV or streaming? Do you have time to binge anything?
We aren't. We were, but I can't even remember what it was. So we're not. I'm watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine with my teenagers. So that's what we're watching right now.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
You can take your older humor with their younger humor and see what comes out of it.
Exactly.
Okay. What's your least favorite type of music? What's your least favorite genre of music?
People are going to hate me, but country.
Not me. I
can't stand it. I mean, and I like some stuff, but most of it, I'm like, I can't do it.
Yeah. Josh, you're a pretty easygoing guy. What's guaranteed to make you angry?
Honestly, when my employees don't talk to guests, when they let them wander, like I'll lose my mind. I'm like, you saw that guest standing there looking around and you didn't go talk to them. I just want to fire you.
All right. Last question. Would you rather have a private plane or a private yacht?
Oh, plane. Yacht, man. Like I get stuck on the water. Plane.
Yeah, plane. You can go anywhere you want, right?
If I'm on the podcast, we get put in a drawing. Is that how this works? One of those things?
Yeah. We're gonna do that on our 50th year anniversary.
Yeah,
we're gonna do that,
CCK's handing out jets.
Well, we do have a private jet of our own that's branded, and no, it's not really.
You can fly me anytime.
Yeah. Well, Josh, thank you again so much for your time. We appreciate the stories. We appreciate the honesty and the openness and the vulnerability. And if you happen to be in Tulsa listening to this and you pass by a snow shack, be sure to stop and also know about what's going on there, but also come down to Bixby. Join us at Courts and Commons on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, and just have some food and take in the atmosphere. So, Josh, we wish you continued success in every way. We thank you for joining us today. If you want to email us, you can do that at podcast@cckcpa.com. Let us know what you think. If you have any questions, comments, if you'd like to see or hear anybody on a future episode, let us know. Again, that's podcast@cckcpa.com. Our special thanks, as always, to CCK, main sponsor for this and giving us the platform to do this. KP, as always, thanks for filling in today and giving us the direction we need to go. To Robert Mays for the intro and outro. Clarence Fisher, Tulsa Internet Marketing Services, thanks for helping us always get across the line. To Emily Johansson for all the background work. And Sarah, we miss you. We look forward to you coming back and hearing all about your new grandbaby. So again, thanks for joining us today. And we look forward to next time when you join us and you get to see what these two CPAs are chatting about and who's on the mic.
The information provided on this podcast is for general informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute accounting, tax, legal, or financial advice. While we strive to provide accurate and up-to-date information, laws and regulations change and individual circumstances vary. Always consult with a qualified CPA or professional advisor before making any financial or business decisions. The views expressed by the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of any organizations they are affiliated with. Listening to this podcast does not create a client-accountant relationship. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge and agree to those terms. And that's a wrap for this episode of Two CPAs and the Mic. If you found today's episode helpful, please subscribe, share, and leave us a review. Have questions or ideas for a topic? Reach out. We'd love to hear from you. Email us at podcast@cckcpa.com.